Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The politics of this country is taking shape very fast. And it's turning out to be a two-horse race between the Deputy President William Ruto and the ODM party leader Raila Odinga. We are not going to have a third force. And the question as to who the president is going to support is now concluded. President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to support Raila Odinga. And from all indications, the president is already laying elaborate strategies to, number one, revamp Jubilee Party. Number two, to stop his deputy. And number three, he's also crafting an alliance which will bring all other political parties together to support Raila Odinga. And yesterday, something happened. Jubilee Party issued notice of its National Delegates Conference. I've always opined on this platform that in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. And in that notice, they are saying, please, take notice that pursuant to Article 7, blah, 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 Jubilee Party Constitution, the National Delegates Conference will be held on 25th and 26th February 2022 at KCC beginning at 10 a.m. I'm also going to dissect that particular NDC. And then today, because I've always insisted on this platform that in politics nothing happens out of mere coincidence, today Raphael Tuju was at Inooro FM. And Raphael Tuju leaked details on how the Deputy President was the first person to approach Raila Odinga to sabotage President Uhuru Kenyatta. At the same time, President Uhuru Kenyatta was also holding another meeting with the Jubilee Parliamentary Group leadership. So in this video today, I want us to look at what Raphael Tuju's statement means. Because what Raphael Tuju is saying is the exact thing which David Murade has been consistently saying. That the Deputy President actually tried to sabotage President Uhuru Kenyatta. And you also remember that the president has promised that he was going to leak or to give Kenyans details about their breakup. But William Ruto also at one point stated something which also should interest us. He stated that it was Raila Odinga who first approached him about this handshake. And then he went and shared with the president. So which means whatever Tuju is saying is the truth, because it's also in concurrence with what the Deputy President stated. Because according to the DP, Raila Odinga approached him first. And these guys are saying Ruto approached Raila. So which means the talks between Raila and Ruto, whether it's Raila who approached Ruto or Ruto who approached Raila, it took place first before the president came on board with the handshake. So I want us to try and figure out why Raphael Tuju is making that statement and the choice of Inooro, which is also significant. But before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue. Thank you guys for your continued support. I'm really humbled by the support. Don't forget to give this particular video thumbs up. Now, who is Raphael Tuju? Raphael Tuju is the Jubilee Secretary General. And Raphael Tuju is also a cabinet minister in President Uhuru Kenyatta's government, but without portfolio. It means Raphael Tuju sits in cabinet meetings, he earns salary as a cabinet, he's also protected as a cabinet, but he doesn't have a specific portfolio. Because according to Raphael Tuju, the Deputy President didn't want him, or in quotes, any Luo man to be in cabinet. But because of the work he offered to the president and the risk he took, the president had no option but to make him a cabinet secretary. So today in this country, Raphael Tuju is one of the close allies of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And because of the working relationship between between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, Raphael Tuju is today also one of the close allies of Raila Odinga. And I'm going to explain to you guys, maybe towards the end of next week, the emergence of Raphael Tuju in Raila Odinga's politics. So he's also very close with Raila Odinga. And I've seen Raphael Tuju taking a lead in pushing for voters registration in Nyanza. But why would Raphael Tuju make this kind of a statement at this hour? Because the expectation of Kenyans was that President Uhuru Kenyatta was going to talk or to tell Kenyans what really transpired. Because that's one question which Kenyans are really eager to hear from the horse's mouth. What really transpired between the president and his deputy. Because these two gentlemen were very close. In fact, at some point, they were being referred to as the dynamic duo. They would put on similar shirts, similar ties in most cases, and even their body language when walking, you would easily tell. But the mere fact that they fell out, and the mere fact that the president had to go for handshake with Raila Odinga without involving his DP, means there must have been something. And that something is serious. Within the political circles, Kenyans are speculating two things. Number one, that the deputy president wanted to impeach the president. Of course, it was going to be possible to impeach the president if he wanted, and if Raila Odinga had played balls. The question is, after that bitterly contested election, why is it that Raila Odinga refused to play balls? So the first thing is, he would have easily managed to impeach the president. The other thing which is being speculated is that there were attempts to eliminate the president. That's really outrageous, because I don't think it was going to be possible. But again, we are in politics, which is dirty. I've always maintained that. So there are people around the president who've been saying that the DP had actually planned that Uhuru was not going to accept to leave power because of his age, and therefore hii siasa tunasikianga maneno, ile story ziko hapa nje, zingine wacha tu. But those are mere speculations. But what Raphael Tuju is saying could be true. That Ruto went to Raila Odinga first. Then he shared with Raila Odinga that let us work together and frustrate this guy. So what would have motivated the deputy president to approach Raila Odinga? Because remember, in the first term of Jubilee government, these guys worked very closely. Although Senator Kipchumba Murkomen's comments revealed that they started seeing differences between these two guys even before the elections. So probably William Ruto was advised by his team members, that work with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and after second term, because David Murathe is a very honest man. Before the elections, David Murathe was very clear and told Kenyans that we are going to see a more ruthless President Uhuru Kenyatta in the second term. That was before we went for election. So probably William Ruto was warned, but he didn't listen. But what would have motivated the DP to reach out to Raila Odinga? In my view, 5 things. The first thing is the control of government. If you followed politics closely, you should have realized that in the first term of Jubilee government, the person who was ruling was none other than the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto. Why was that possible? That was possible because President Uhuru Kenyatta allowed him, and the DP being a hands-on person, he was able to control almost all sectors of this government. So after the first term, President Uhuru Kenyatta decided that I'm going to be very ruthless. So the DP probably knew that whatever took place, the kind of freedom he had in the first term, he was not going to enjoy, because Uhuru Kenyatta was not going to serve his second term. And that probably Uhuru Kenyatta would have wanted to leave a legacy. So if the DP had a way of giving tenders to his friends, he had a way of asking parastatals guys to contribute to his Harambes, that was not going to happen. But he needed to take control of government before Uhuru could take control of the government. So the easiest way was to reach out to Raila Odinga, ask Raila Odinga to support him, and probably the president was going to invite him, and they were going to renegotiate. Because remember, after that election, even forming the government became a problem. Uhuru Kenyatta did not just form his first cabinet. It was, I think, half or less than half were the first to fill the position. Then later on, another group was brought on board. So probably the DP wanted to take control of government, and they thought that by intimidating the president, it was going to be possible. Number 2, probably he just wanted to blackmail Uhuru Kenyatta, so that Uhuru Kenyatta could give in to some of the demands. That, do me this, or I work with Raila. And of course, there's nothing, because Uhuru is the president of the Republic of Kenya, which means he get any intelligence report. And maybe he was told that your DP is planning A, B, C, D to blackmail you. So the best way for the president was to reach out to Raila Odinga. And of course, being that their fathers had worked before, being that if Ruto controlled the government, it would have still meant that he was still going to face Raila Odinga, and Uhuru was serving his second term, which means Uhuru was going to go home. So it was easier for Raila Odinga to work with Uhuru Kenyatta, figuring out that 5 years was a short time which was going to lapse, and therefore the president was likely to support him. And that's exactly what has happened. But he wanted to blackmail the president, which the president thwarted. Number 3, in my view, is the control of parliament. If you've studied William Ruto and his politics, he's a very smart politician. The only problem I have with him is that sometimes he's so impatient. You know, in 2017, William Ruto ensured that majority of members of parliament from Jubilee Party were actually his people. In Western Kenya, for example, we had the vifaranga via computers, people like Didmas Baraza, Dan Wanyama, and the rest. Those vifaranga via computers were his people. You go to Kambani, we had vifaranga via computers. People like Munyaka, people like that engineer Munyao ama Musau, those vifaranga via computers. When you go to Central Kenya, he plotted and planted his people at the nomination stage. So he ended up having majority of members of parliament believing in him. So it was going to be easy for him to just convince Raila Odinga to work with him in parliament. So that if Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to initiate anything in parliament, it was going to be easy for them to shoot down. If there was anything, like if there was an impeachment proposal, it was going to see the light of the day. So control of parliament is probably one of the things which motivated Ruto to reach out to Raila Odinga, if indeed he did that. Number 4 was to make Uhuru Kenyatta lame duck president. Because if you're a president of the Republic of Kenya, your deputy is controlling most of your members of parliament, and the opposition leader with majority members of parliament on his side is also opposed to you, fighting you. What would you do? You just pray that your term comes to an end. Probably that's what the DP had intended, to make Uhuru Kenyatta a lame duck president. But I've always opined that President Uhuru Kenyatta is one of the shrewd politicians we have around. Uhuru hardly makes mistakes in politics. And that's why, if you look at the PG which he held today, it's like Uhuru was telling his people that sometimes when you go to war, you don't just fire, because you might fire your last bullet, and then the opponent comes now fresh. What will you do? So basically, he was telling the people that Ruto started firing early, and now is the time for the opponent to go for him. And because he doesn't have now weapons, what will he do? So he wanted to make Uhuru Kenyatta a lame duck president. And Uhuru Kenyatta got wind of this. And lastly, I think the DP, being impatient politician, was not sure whether Uhuru Kenyatta was going to support him. And in fact, the main reason the DP never embraced the handshake was because he was sure that the president and Raila Odinga were out to frustrate him. So he might have been there, but in spirit, he was asking himself, between me, William Ruto, and Raila Odinga, who will the president support? Based on my experience and working with him, is it possible that the president was going to support me? So I think all those questions came into his mind. And he thought that despite the fact that Uhuru had promised to support him in 2013 and again affirmed in 2017, he never believed him that Uhuru was going to support him again. And because of several things, there's a business interest. Ruto was into all businesses. Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to secure his legacy, for example, corruption in government, which was common in the first term. Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to make sure that certain things are done like this. Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to leave a united country, according to him. But the deputy president was so impatient, and he believed that probably the president was doing all this because he had someone in mind. And because he was not sure of Uhuru Kenyatta supporting him, The first thing was to reach out to Raila Odinga. Then after reaching out to Raila Odinga, he was sure that the president was going to get wind of this. And once the president got wind of it, he was also sure, very sure, that the president was not going to embrace Raila. So we are going to have Ruto, who is not supported by the president, and Raila, who was also not being supported by the president. And then Ruto would have gone ahead and maybe negotiated with Raila Odinga, become the president. I mean, allow me become the president, then you become my deputy. I don't know what to think. Bye-bye.